Hello, and welcome to Returning to Us, a podcast that gives you strategies and tips for how to hack your brain, build and strengthen relationships, and to teach people how to recognize and neutralize their emotional states. I'll discuss emotional intelligence and regulation, how food and exercise impact the body and brain, and share lessons from my own lived experiences. I'm Lauren Spiegelmeier, the founder of the Behavior Hub, which is an organization that works to reduce the stressors of raising and educating children through a brain and biology-based lens. In these episodes, I'll share stories and strategies from my own life, work, and research, answer listener questions, and wrap it up with a try-it-at-home tip. Decades worth of information in just minutes. You ready? Hey everyone, welcome to today's show. We are not doing a solo episode. As you can see, we are doing an interview, and the interview is with Lindsey Kaszuba, an integrative nutrition health coach. So welcome, Lindsey.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course, it's our pleasure. Very excited to talk about Lindsey's genius today because it's very near and dear to my heart. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in with that. And Lindsey, let you share what it is that you do and what is your genius.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. So what I do is I'm an integrative nutrition health coach. Health coach is fine. And I work with women on making food and lifestyle changes that looks a little bit different for all of my clients. Everyone's journey is a little bit different. And so what I really try to focus on is helping my clients make very realistic changes in their lives. And one thing that I really love and that I'm so passionate about is really being able to integrate health into your lifestyle rather than having them be two separate things. I feel like we live in a world where so many people think that in order to be healthy, you have to give up your lifestyle and vice versa. And so what I really aim to teach my clients and help them to realize and integrate into their life is that you can be healthy and still have a very fun, fulfilled lifestyle. And so that's a lot of what I work on with my clients.
Awesome. I think that's the direction that we are going to have to head into in our society, because we are so overworked, so overwhelmed, so stressed out. So if we don't start to integrate all of these pieces of well-being together, I don't know that they're going to happen in our lives. Like it's going to have to be a meshing of those things.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, we live in a world that's like, go, 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 go. And it's constant. We're always connected. And it's so important to take a step back and just really realize like what we need and be able to check in with ourselves and those around us and to focus on ourselves. It's not selfish.
I know we have shared a little bit about that, of like, there's self-care, like there's this term and it's this like glorified thing. And it's like this thing that we do. It's like more external. It's not really integrated into our lives. And I even shy away from the word self-care. And even in my work, like I talk a lot about trauma, but I'm like, I shy away from the word trauma because of the connotation that those words have to them, because they're just words that we put meaning to. But what's beneath them and what like you and I are really teaching is so important to use preventatively and to integrate for longevity and stability.
Exactly. And it's just, there's such a stigma, especially for parents, I think, such a stigma behind the word self-care and healthy for that matter. I don't like using the word healthy because people hear healthy and they're like, ugh, I don't want to be healthy. That means I have to eat kale every day or, go for a run, and I hate working out. And there's just so many other ways that we can participate in like a very clean lifestyle and take care of ourselves without, having all these stigmas attached to it.
Yep. Because we create meaning in words like that. Yeah. Exactly. So I'm dying to know, because I know anyone that is moving in a direction of alignment with like a bigger purpose in life, which it sounds like you have done, there's always a place from which this passion came. So what's the background? What got you into doing this?
Yeah, so I've always had an interest in health and wellness. As long as I can remember. It probably started in high school. I don't know. I used to run a lot and was just always interested in like things I could eat that made me feel good, but it always came from a place that was more on the outside. And, you know, if I went for a run, I would be fit. Or if I ate a salad, like I would be lean. And it really kind of took me going through the program where I got certified to be a health coach was IIN, which is the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. And it was wonderful. Through this program, I really kind of realized that being healthy isn't all about looking fit and eating kale every day and like having a salad for lunch every single day. It's so much more. And it's really about like the mind, body, soul connection and finding what works for each person. And, you know, what works for me might not work for you. And really leaning into that lifestyle of, you know, we live in a world where there's so many fad diets and trendy workouts. And I think all too often, I mean, I constantly am talking to people. They're like, well, I need to go do a spin class. And it's like, well, do you need to go do a spin class? You know, like really kind of leaning into are we doing these things because we think we should be doing these things? Or are we doing these things because they work for us and they make us feel good?
Right.
And so I've very much leaned into that kind of mindset of like finding what works for me and finding whether that's a workout or the food that I eat or my self-care routine. And it's just really like discovering you, like the true you.
Yeah.
And, you know, I that's a lot of what I work with my clients about is just, why are you doing these things? And like, what's the real motive? And like the things we use to judge ourselves and just kind of like ditching all of the old programming. And I have such a passion for that because it's truly life-changing. Like when you hop to the other side, you know, now I eat what I want and I don't feel guilty about it. And that certainly did not happen overnight. You know, it's not something you can just like switch.
Right.
And it does take time, but more so it takes such a mental shift. And I think once you get there, it just, everything becomes easy. You know, you start doing things because you want to and you feel good, and you stop thinking about all the things that you can't do, or, you know, you kind of lose the like deprivation mindset and go into very like fulfillment mindset. And so once I figured that out for myself and like saw the changes that happened in my own life, I just have such a passion for helping other women, and even more specifically moms, because being a mom is insane. And just really kind of helping them realize like you can have a fun, fulfilled life and, you know, eat the things that you want and do the workouts that make you feel good and just like be happy. So I'm so passionate about that, and just like that message and getting that message out to as many women as possible.
And I would love to see more of both medical, nutrition, like mental health, all go in that direction of like, there is no preferred modality. Like there is not one thing that is going to work for everyone. There is not one diet. There is not one exercise. There is not one anything really that works well for everyone. So one of the things that in our framework is like, when we talk about secondary trauma and adult parent educator self-care stress management, is I do something called like personality profiling. So I ask everyone to take these multiple personality tests, pull the things out of them that they like really resonate with, and use that to guide then their self-care routine, what food they eat, exercise they do, social gatherings. Because if you know at a deeper level who you are and what feels good to you and what feels right to you, it's a lot easier to make decisions. And then when you make decisions that are in alignment, you feel much better. Right.
Yes.
It sounds like you're doing a lot of that.
Yes, I think we're very much alike in how we run our businesses that way. You know, it's hard because everything in our world is like, try this diet, try this workout. Like you need to be a certain size, you need to be a certain number on the scale. And that's not what it should be about.
Yeah.
So it's the concept of bioindividuality is something I discovered through this program that I did at IAN, which was like really life-changing. It's just, oh yeah, like my body is different than her body. Like why would the same things work?
Yeah.
So just like really running with that concept of discovering what works for you in all areas of your life is truly just, it's life-changing. And I'm so passionate about helping women kind of discover that. And so I love that you do the personality test. I think that really helps people discover like what makes them thrive.
Absolutely. I think it's a good baseline. And I'm sure like in some sense, in your initial work, like setting the groundwork, there's probably a lot of that done. It's similar, maybe not taking a personality test, but just in the questions that you ask, you learn about who someone is and what, makes them tick. And
yes, exactly. Yes, I do a consultation, and that's what we talk about. We talk about, where you are now and where you want to be, and kind of some of the things that need to happen for you to get there.
Yep. That makes perfect sense. So I'm guessing that people are probably wondering, what is the difference then? You say integrative nutritionist or nutritional health coach. What's the difference between that and just your standard nutritionist?
Yeah, so a nutritionist focuses really primarily on food. They'll help you with meal plans if you need to do, some sort of, if your doctor has like a prescribed diet, they'll help you with food related. A health coach and then a life coach kind of helps you with like your general lifestyle, like finding your purpose. A health coach kind of marries the two. Okay. So we do, it's integrative because the mind, body, soul all works together. It is one. And so it's very holistic approach of finding the things that make you thrive and make you feel good, whether that is food or maybe it's an activity that you love, or, maybe it's a relationship in your life that you need to focus on, or just kind of really combining physical activity, relationships, having a career that you love, some sort of spiritual practice, whether you believe in a higher power or not, and marrying food. So it's kind of a combination of everything.
That clears it up. And I have a feeling some are probably thinking like, what's the difference? But
yeah, I think once I went through this program, I was like, I feel like everyone needs a health coach.
Right.
I actually hired a coach for myself. It's just nice to be able to like have the support of someone in all different areas.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's great.
I agree. Yeah. I think health coach, therapist, intertwine the two, like everyone can use some accountability, to work on mindset and body and well-being. And I agree.
If now is the time. I think this past year has showed everyone that it's so important to focus on yourself and the people that are closest to you, and do that in whatever way feels good to you.
Yep. I completely agree. We need a little bit of a reset. And I think that would be wise for everyone to consider that. And it's not too late, even, we're end of May here. Like you can do half years, like a reset. You don't have to wait until next year to like get it right. You can start tomorrow. Like there is no wrong time to start.
Today is the best. And it's just, I think it's easy to just be like, oh, I'll do it later. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it next year. I'll do it next month. And it's easier to just like keep going on the path that we're going, because the path of least resistance is the easiest.
Yep.
But change doesn't happen there. So if you really want to make changes in your life, you have to change something. Yeah. And you have to become a version of ourselves that we've never been before to see a different outcome.
Yep.
So I think that's hard. That's a lot to bite off. And so, there's lots of little tips and tricks that you can do to like achieve your goals.
Yep.
And that's something that we work on in my program, but it's the best time to start is now.
Agreed. And that's a good segue, because you said about tips and tricks. So anything that you would recommend for parents, educators, people to do, just like off the top of your head, things to take care of themselves right now in today's stressful world?
I think really just like breaking it down and focusing on one thing at a time. I think that I know that we tend to create these big goals, especially like New Year's resolutions, or like people are like, I want to lose the COVID weight. And like, that's great. You should have these big goals, but really be taking a step back and breaking them down a little bit more. Like you could write it on a piece of paper, like what your goal is, and then all of the little things that you can do to achieve that goal. And instead of saying like, I was just saying this because I just talked to someone recently, I want to lose my 10 COVID pounds that I gained. That's great if you want to do that. But having this giant goal it's something big to bite off. And so just really breaking it down into smaller, more realistic, more achievable steps And, maybe it's drink more water this week, or maybe it's try to get at least 7 hours of sleep, and just like start doing all of these little things that will eventually help you achieve the goal.
Yep.
And just, it's easier to achieve something small, and we can feel like we can celebrate something as a win, rather than being like, oh, didn't do it, I failed. So it's so important to celebrate the little wins, to see that as a win versus I didn't do this, so I failed. And I think that that's just like ingrained in our brains. It's just the world that we live in. And so it's hard to do that. But I think writing it down on a piece of paper, like I'm a very visual person. So writing it down and putting steps to it. And maybe you focus on one thing this week and then one thing next week. And eventually you will achieve your goal if you just keep trucking forward. And I think with that, something else that like I'm a huge, which we already touched on a little bit, is just taking time for yourself. It's so important to, especially as parents, educators, people, it's so important to take care of ourselves, because then you can show up for everyone else. And it's hard to do that. And I know, like, as a mom myself, taking time for yourself can feel guilty sometimes, but it's so important to do it. And it can be as simple as like having a hot cup of coffee in the morning, that's 5 minutes to yourself. That works. Just taking that time to focus on checking in with yourself.
I want to come back to that in just a second. But the idea of breaking these goals down really resonated with me, because something that we do with our parents as well, and schools. Like, what is the end goal? Okay, great. We've got that we used to call them BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals. So it's like, okay, that's your BHAG. But then what are the micro steps that get you to the BHAG? And here's like why that is so important. It's such a good practice, is because we in Western world, especially, experience decision fatigue, because there are so many things that we have to make decisions about every day. Not even just that, it's the sensory integration or sensory overload that our brains are experiencing. So like, even like if I look out this window right now, I mean, there are people moving, there are trucks, there are people walking, there are dogs, like the amount of sensory stimulation that is coming in from my window right now already drains my mental capacity. On top of that, I'm asked to make decisions. I've got to make decisions constantly. Like, when do I get up? What toothpaste do I use? What do I wear? What's the weather? Like, all these things. So when you have something that's not immediately pressing, like a goal, something you want to change, something that's harder to do, if you don't take some time and block some time to actually write it out, break it down into micro steps that you can achieve, you probably will never get to that big goal, because you'll never have an action plan for getting there. And you'll always reach that, like, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. And because that seems overwhelming, you just don't even start. You just don't even do it.
Exactly. It's the overwhelm is real. And if it's just human nature that we try to do that. And we want to achieve our goal, but we don't know how to get there. And maybe it's, you just don't have the tools and you need help finding the tools that work for you. And that's a big part of it, is you can Google all you want. If you don't find the tools that are realistic to your lifestyle, it's not achievable. You have to find things that work for you specifically. And, you can try all of these other things that people have said, and maybe some of them stick and maybe some of them don't. It's just really, really finding the things that work for you. And on a very personalized, specific level.
And it will be easier to do those things if they are personalized.
Exactly. And just being comfortable celebrating like the small little things. It's you achieved something, that's great. You should celebrate that. And not needing to wait for the big end result to have a celebration for yourself. You did it. Give yourself a pat on the back. Whatever you want to do to celebrate, move to the next step.
I agree. So you had mentioned earlier about the importance of, especially as a parent, and I would say maybe educator too, as the system is still disastrous right now, taking time for yourself and doing so isn't selfish. And I think the one thing I hear from everyone, whether it's parent, educator, or both, or even people who are either, is like, I don't have the time. Like I even if there are some like legitimate, I wouldn't say excuses, but like, I'm a single mom, I have 3 kids. Like, okay, I hear all of that. And there's got to be somewhere, even if it's 1 to 3 minutes that you can carve out for yourself. Like you said, a cup of coffee, or, I've talked to parents about, even if you have young kids, like you can create this expectation of like, this 2 minutes is for me. And even a 2-year-old can handle like 2 minutes away from you, or like playing or whatever. And you explain to them, set a timer, a visual timer, whatever it is. And you just take that 2 minutes. It doesn't need to be 30 minutes, a whole day, whatever it is. Better, I think, even if it is daily, in micro doses. But do you have any, do you have any recommendations? Do you have any thoughts? And this wasn't one of our questions, but anything that you do to help give yourself some time in your life?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think it's so important. Taking time for myself is always something that I've tried to do even before kids. Post kids, it's much more difficult, but I still do it. And time, obviously everyone has the same amount of time in the day. And it just really depends on how you manage it. It's all about managing time and managing expectations. And if you make it a priority, whatever that will be, it will happen. And even if it's 5 minutes a day, 3 minutes a day, while you're brushing your teeth, whatever it may be, take that time for yourself, because it is so important just to take a step back from your day-to-day grind and focus on checking in with yourself. What feels good? I mean, I have 2 young kids, so life is chaotic.
Yep.
And, I still find time to take time to myself, whether it is having that hot cup of coffee in the morning. Sometimes it's not hot, sometimes I have to reheat it, but you know what? Got a couple sips in. Sometimes it's like literally just showering and brushing my teeth in peace and quiet. Sometimes it's okay, like this is a really frustrating situation, I'm going to take a step back. Sometimes it's once the kids go to bed, I'm like, you know what? Not going to watch TV, not going to hang out with my husband. I'm going to read a book. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to do a yoga, whatever that may be. It looks different for me every single day. Yep. But I think like the bigger lesson is taking time to step back, check in with yourself. I think it's just we just get so busy. We continuously pack in our schedules, and it's very, very hard to say, it's easy to say I don't have time. It's hard to make the time.
Yep.
And whatever it is that is important to you, if you make it a priority, you will find the time.
Yep.
And obviously easier said than done, but even if it's like scheduling it in your calendar, we abide by our calendars for work. So let's abide by our calendars for ourselves. Yes. Like maybe it's 5 minutes in the morning just to like stretch or sit in your room in peace and quiet, like whatever that looks like for you. It's just important to prioritize it. And I think a question that you can ask yourself is, how good do I want to feel after I do this? And, I ask myself that a lot. I'm like, okay, I'm like, really want to do a Pilates flow today. I don't really feel like doing it. Like, okay, do I want to feel good? I'm like, yes, I know that doing this is going to make me feel good. So then I just do it. And it's just carving out the time and making it. You can shift the time around however you see fit, and you can do it. You can do it.
Made me think of a book I recently read. I used to follow, and I still do, Rangan Chatterjee. He is an integrative health physician in the UK. And I don't know if it's new, I think it was recently released, Feel Better in 5. And it's like 100 different ways. And it's broken up to like 3 to 5 categories of like food, body, social, all these things. And it's like, in less than 5 minutes, here are things that you can do to feel better. Essentially, here are self-care practices that you can do in less than 5 minutes. And it's a really great book because it gives you so many options. Like there are a lot of like yoga flows where they're just 3 poses that you can do in like 3 minutes. And I'll do them like, while my coffee is brewing. I'm like, all right, got that in today. It was 3 minutes and it wasn't a whole.
Yeah, exactly. And there's another book. It's called Tiny Tweaks.
Okay.
And it's when you're doing one thing that's already a habit, stack on something else. And habit stacking is so beneficial and it's so easy to do. It's like, okay, maybe you want to do a workout, but you just don't have time. Okay, do calf raises while you're brushing your teeth. Or squats, or whatever your preferred method is. Or maybe you want to listen to a podcast while your coffee's brewing. Maybe you just want to do, maybe you want to do a couple yoga stretches, downward dog. I try to do downward dog every single day. It makes me feel so good. there's so many things that you can do stacking onto another habit. And you don't even realize, like, when you start really breaking down your day, we do a lot of habits.
Oh, we totally do.
Whether it's getting dressed in the morning or showering or brushing your teeth or sitting down with your coffee or like opening your emails or having lunch. Like, there's all these things that we do. And when you break it down and just start listing out the things that you want to add into your life, like, you can find ways to stack it onto something that you're already doing. So it takes no time.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice and something I think everyone can in some way integrate into what they're doing. Absolutely. Yeah. So as a parent and as a working parent, I'm curious, what are some things that you struggle with, I guess, around raising kids and kind of doing it all? Because a lot of people are doing it all.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this past year is just parents everywhere, superheroes. We got through it, but being a parent is tough. It's tough. It brings up, all of the things in your life and makes them very real and in front of you. I have 2 young girls, 2.5 and 6 months, and definitely still figuring out life with 2 and like the balancing act of that. But I mean, it's just, I think one of the hardest thing, and I have 2 girls. So I think one of the hardest things for me is just the constant battle of trying to really teach them how to be strong and resilient. And obviously my 6-month-old we're not at the teaching moments quite yet, but just really be resilient and be strong and be able to manage their emotions. And I think that's so important, is just teaching them that it's okay to sit with themselves for a minute, and we don't have to constantly like do, go, of just like sitting in the silence and like feeling what you're feeling. And, feeling's feeling and it can't be wrong. And, you can have multiple feelings at the same time. Like, everyone does, but teaching them that that's okay. And to really be able to tune in with their bodies and listen to their bodies, of whether that's like the food that they're eating or the movement they need to do, or like we're going through potty training, like going to the bathroom, all of those things. And like really just holding space for themselves and like tuning in and checking in with themselves to see what they need. And I think that's so important. Like, I had to discover all of that throughout my adult life, like really how to manage my emotions and like be able to sit with myself and like hold space and check in with your mental health and like seeing how you're doing and what you need, and okay, asking for help and just, yeah. So, I mean, parenting brings up all the things, and, it is a constant struggle balancing yourself with them, your partner, your friends, your work, and I think the biggest thing for me is taking time to myself. Like, it's the only thing that keeps my sanity. And just, something I really struggle with is patience. It's never been my strongest virtue. And so I'm constantly working on it, but being a parent, definitely, like, you got to take a second just to step back and like take a few deep breaths and, focus on what you need in that moment. But yeah, I mean, I applaud parents everywhere, especially through this past year. It's been a difficult one.
I think even our most patient of parents, their patience has been tried this last year.
Yes.
giving yourself grace. And I just was privy to a dad who I was listening kind of in on an interview my significant other was doing with this dad who is transitioning away from Army, not Army, is some branch of the military, one of the branches. And he is going into an entrepreneurial venture, and he's got 2 young kids. I think they are like 2 and 4. And he was saying about like, we all, our patience is tried, and we do things that we don't want to do. Like he said, the one time the child like kept playing with his toy, and he asked the child to stop playing with the toy when the kid was like maybe 3.5, 4. And he got so angry because he was sleep deprived, and he just threw the toy, and like immediately had been like all the shame storm of like, why did I do that? Why couldn't I control that? What is wrong with me? I've just like damaged my child. And I think a lot of us go into that shame storm. And then we might get ourselves out of it, or we might even just bypass it, but coming out of it and then going back and apologizing, like, even though the child is only 3 or 4, like, I'm so sorry I did that. Like, they can still hear, even if they can't even like process all the words, they see the emotion on your face because they haven't lost that intuitive nature yet. So I thought it was like, wow, what an amazing thing. Cause I don't know if I remember like my parents ever coming back to me. To my mother, yes. My father, not so much, like coming back and saying, I'm so sorry I did that. Like, in the heat of the moment, I lost control and I'm sorry. So a lot of us, I think, are reparenting ourselves too.
Yeah. And I mean, it brings up all of the things. And I think it's in kids see, and people always tell you this, but I never really realized it until I was a parent. Like, kids really see everything and they understand so much more than we ever realize. And maybe it'll come out tomorrow that they understood what we did today, or maybe it'll be a year or 5 years. Yeah. But it is like miraculous. I remember when I was pregnant, I had this realization when my daughter was, I don't know, it was last year when I was pregnant with my second. Mm-hmm. And we had just found out, like, we were in the process of buying a home, and like the closing had fallen through. And it was just like, it was one of those days that everything seemed to be going wrong. And I was like very hormonal pregnant, like into pregnancy, and just like had a mental breakdown. And yes, health coaches like still have mental breakdowns. We're not perfect either. Human. And I was like sobbing on the floor, and my daughter was being so frustrating, and she wanted me to read her books, and it was like she was being in one of those moments. And then I just lost it. And I will never forget this moment. She stopped what she was doing, looked at me like I was a crazy person, and came over and gave me a hug and wiped the tears off of my face and asked if I was okay. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, you are just like a human. Like, you are this person that I just never knew was in there. Like, I feel like we look at kids and we're just like, oh, they're a kid. Like, they just don't get it. Like, they don't understand. Like, they're too small. But they just, like, they're people too. Yeah. It was really the first time that I was like, she's like her own person. Yep. And like, she has these emotions, and she's trying to teach me how to cope with mine right now. And it was like the sweetest, most endearing moment. And like, I will never forget it. But it was like a monumental, pivotal point in my parenting journey of just like, they really do see what we do, and they implement that in their own life, in their own way. Yep. But it was life-changing in my journey.
That gave me the chills. And I think it's so important to be real and authentic and apologize and kind of go back and rebuild. And because like the example I gave with the toy throwing, like that can either be a moment that is forever burned in a child's mind, or you can go back and you can repair, whether it be that moment or later in the day or the next day. And then that moment becomes a bond and a relationship and a build moment instead of this like burned negative memory. So we are all going to make mistakes, and having grace for ourselves as parents and educators is important. And it's forgive yourself and apologize and move forward.
Exactly. I think giving yourself grace is just so important. Like, no one's perfect, and we're all learning as we go.
Great.
Parents don't know what they're doing. We just live it and figure it out.
So true. Okay. So that makes me think about too, is like life with kids, work, like all these different things. What are some things that you do, some personal practices that you incorporate into your own life to help yourself to feel better, stay good, all those things?
Yeah. I mean, it looks a little different every day. I really try to check in to see what I need. Things that make me feel really great is moving my body. I personally love like yoga, Pilates, flows. It's different every day. 20 minutes is like my sweet spot. It makes me feel so good. It makes me feel strong. It gives me like mental, physical clarity. So I try to do it as often as I can, whether that is like doing a flow or going for a long walk or like going on a hike or whatever that looks like. I try to move my body every day. I also have a skincare routine that I like swear by, and the methods and the products always change, but like actually having a routine just like gives me life. I love it. And I've just started, there's so much science behind meditating, and I've just recently put myself on a 30-day meditation challenge. I'm on day like 22, I think. And I feel great. Like I do it. I don't have time to do it in the morning. I know I would love to do it in the morning, but with 2 young kids, I feel like I'm shot out of a cannon every morning. So I do it in the evenings, like right before I go to bed. And it's actually it's helped me sleep so much more sound. Like it just like clears my mind at the end of the day. So I think I'm going to keep doing it at least as often as I can. And then I've been playing around with being more plant-based in what I eat. I still eat meat, but just kind of been leaning into like a very plant-based, heavy, vegetable grain diet. And it's been making me, I feel great. I mean, it's going on like 8 or 9 months now. I think I've been doing that, and I feel great. So like, those are just some of the things that I do for myself. I mean, I just really try to check in every day and see and ask myself, what am I feeling today? Like maybe it's a crazy work day. Maybe I can carve out some time to do special time with my oldest, which is something we implemented when my second was born. And I can see like the pure joy on her face. We go on a smoothie date, which I think we might do today. And just spending that time with her, just one-on-one and like really connecting, it gives me so much happiness.
Yeah. It sounds like there are some practices that you have in place that are like ingrained that you pretty much do every day. And then there are some like, okay, well, I don't feel as great today, so I'm going to add this extra thing. So like having that plan of like preventative care in your daily plan, and then also having like some outliers, like, okay, when I don't feel so good, I can pull these things in.
Yes. Yeah. I'm actually planning out like a self-care workshop.
Ooh.
On all the things that I do daily, that I do monthly, and just like how I check in with myself and prioritize the time to carve it out for myself.
We will all look forward to that. And we'll come back around to that at the end and make sure everyone has your contact information, so that anyone wants and needs support in that area and support from you in general, they have that. But no, that's awesome. I'm dying to know what is your skincare routine, like loosely?
Well, every morning and every night. The products change. Right now I'm really into Drunken Elephant.
Okay. I've heard of this.
I love them. It's like plain skincare. In the morning, it's super fast. It's like a minute. I just like splash water, and I like don't really use cleanser that much, which every time I get a facial, they're like, you should use cleanser. I just like splash water on my face, and then I do like a roller, and like I don't know if it actually does anything, but it feels so good. And then I just do like a hyaluronic acid, a caffeine eye cream, and a moisturizer with sunscreen in it. At night is more my jam. Like I really love my nighttime skincare. I do it after the kids go to bed, just like relaxes me. Sometimes I'll do a face mask, but I do this sort of similar that I do in the morning. I do like a hyaluronic acid. I do like I try to do gua sha as much as possible. Just like, it feels so good. And I feel like it actually does make a difference.
And what is it? Wait, stop it. What is this that you just said?
It's like a jade tool, and it's contoured to just like move the fluid along, and it's like lymphatic drainage.
Yep.
And I feel like it really makes a difference when you do it as often as possible, just in like fine lines and like wrinkles and puffiness. So I do that paired with an oil that I make myself.
Okay.
And I've been doing this for years, and I swear by it. I just get like clean oils off of like Amazon or wherever you can get oils. And I do rosehip oil, sweet almond oil, and then just a little drop of lavender in it. And I've been making this combination I think it's been like 8 or 9 years maybe. And I love it. I like need it every single night. So just simple. And then I do a rose mist right before I go to sleep. It's simple. It's quick. It's just like, it makes me feel so good. And then I like play around with the products that I use. But yeah, right now I really like Drunken Elephant, and Peach and Lily actually is a really good one.
Okay. And from a little bit I know about oils, like none of those oils are terribly expensive. So like if you wanted to make your own concoction, look for like wanted to use any of those oils, like rosehip, lavender, almond oil, like any of those are relatively reasonable in price.
Yeah, they really are. And they last, like they comes in a jar
Yep.
that's quite large. So like it'll last me, it'll probably last me a year.
Yep. He's only a little bit. Yeah. Just for your face. Makes
Yeah,
sense.
it's great. And you can use it for your body too. Like you can make your own body oils but it's inexpensive and I feel like it's so good for your skin. And before I used oils, I was like, I don't know, oils on my skin is gonna make my skin so oily. And like, it really doesn't. It gives you like a really nice glow.
And I will back that because I did the same thing as a child who did have acne. I was like, when people told me to use oil, I'm like, no, I would never use oil on my face because it would just make my face break out. My face is already oily. And
Counterintuitive, but it works.
yeah. And the Italians, when I spent quite a chunk of time in Italy, they're like, oh no, it's like antioxidants, actually clears things out. And I was like, that all makes sense to me. And like helping with like hydrating everything. So
Yeah.
yep. Don't shy away from oil if your skin is prone to breakouts. Give it a shot.
Yeah, I love it.
Any other resources that you have that you want to share, whether they be books, podcasts, courses, like anything at all that you have found helpful that might be beneficial for parents, educators, anyone?
Yeah, I love podcasts, hence why I'm here. Parenting ones, I really like Raising Good Humans.
Raising Good Humans is
I feel like they're just, she's like a psychologist and she's just like short, digestible. They're like 20, maybe 30 minutes. And like she covers all different types of things that you deal with in parenting and just like how to teach your kids through the moment. A new one that I really like is Dear Gabby.
Okay.
Pretty new. It's from Gabby Bernstein. She's like a spiritual guide. Like, I don't know, she's all about attracting what you desire. And she just, the format of it is she invites people on and coaches them through the moment. And so it's like really cool format and really helpful because oftentimes people are going through the same thing that you are. And so she's like, it feels like she's coaching you.
Yep.
That's my newest one I really love. And I just constantly reading about health and nutrition and workouts and just trying to learn all the time and like really improve my knowledge. And I try things out on myself and see what I like and what I don't, and like what works and what doesn't. And I mean, I think something that was really life-changing for me was the program that I went through to get my certification, IIN, just like really helped me clear out the mindset that it's one size fits all.
Yep.
And get a very clear vision on what works for me. Yep. And in hindsight, like really helping my clients like hone in on that as well.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Anything else that you think would be beneficial for us to know? Looking for.
I think the biggest thing is just the idea that having a life that is full of health doesn't have to be this big, scary thing. It's really just all about finding what works for you and things that you love and adding those things into your life versus trying to focus on the things that you should not be doing. And, the more you add in, the less space there is for all of the other things that don't serve you well. And that you can really have a very fun, fulfilled, happy lifestyle and still be healthy and still take care of yourself and really just, intertwine them together.
A great piece of advice to leave us with, I feel. Absolutely. So if someone wants to learn more about what you do, wants your support, or even just wants to be on the lookout for this workshop coming up, where is the best place for people to find you?
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram at Lindsey Kaszuba Health, and Lindsey. Kaszuba is Kaszuba. It's a funny one. Health. And then my website's lindseykazubahealth.com. And my email is lk@lindseykazubahealth.com. So I play on all of those things. You can reach me there. You can book a consult on my website. You can shoot me a DM if you're interested in working together or even just seeing what my program is about. It's a 30-minute consultation. It's free. And we really just discuss where you are, where you want to be. And if I think it's something that I can help with, we will talk a little bit about the tools that I provide you with throughout the program. You could shoot me a DM on Instagram or an email, schedule a consult on the website.
Awesome. And I will link all of that in the show notes too below, so that people want to go check it out. They can pop into the show notes and grab that information.
Amazing. So nice chatting with you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. And to wrap up, we're going to do our try it at home tip, which Lindsey so kindly gave us, which is and correct me if I'm wrong, it's 3-cycle breathing.
Yes.
3-breath cycle. So essentially just taking some time either throughout your day, pairing it with something you already do and doing it daily, but 3 rotations of breath. So 3 huge, slow breaths in and out. And that will kind of reset your nervous system. Actually, I heard it this morning when I was meditating. I'm taking like a meditation course on Insight Timer that I'm loving. And I knew that breathing resets the nervous system. What I did not know is that it takes roughly for like an adult, 2.5 to 3 minutes to reset. Like you need a good 2.5 minutes of breathing. So huge, big breaths, maybe even do more than 3, but I didn't know that. And that probably varies for everyone too, depending on how out of sync their nervous systems are. But
yeah, just when you take, another fun fact is when you take a deep breath and through your diaphragm, it's basically a massage for your heart. And so I really try to think of that when I do like really deep breaths. It's like my heart is being massaged.
Yeah. Everyone needs to think of that every day. Like reason why we need to take deep breaths, like give your heart a loving massage. That is motivation enough.
I love it.
All right. Well, that is it for today's episode of Returning to Us podcast. Remember our try at home tip, which is 3 breath cycles. And if you would like me to answer any of your future questions on an episode in the future, email me at podcast@thebehaviorhub.com, or you can send me a text to 717-693-7744. And as you know, a great way to remember all of the things we just talked about, because an hour's worth of information is hard to remember, is apply it right away. And you can do this by either leaving a comment below with your biggest takeaway or a review with a takeaway, and subscribe to future episodes to learn more ways to hack your brain. Until next episode, I am Lauren Spiegelmeier. Thanks for joining Lindsey and Lindsey, thanks for sharing your genius.
Thank you.